Hello, ski racing fans, and welcome to the American Downhillers Podcast, Season 3, Episode 2. I'm two-time Olympian Doug Lewis, and with me is World Championship medalist AJ Kitt. AJ, where are you, and did you get to ski today?
Yeah, I'm in Copper for the NORAMs here, and I loaded the lift at 6:45, and I think I got off the hill at 2:30 today. So yeah, I skied.
All right.
More or less standing around though, watching kids ski race by me.
All right. And three-time U.S. national champion and creator of American Downhillers, Marco Sullivan. Marco, where are you, and did you get to ski today?
I am at home in Tahoe City, and it is snowing, but I mountain biked last night, and I did not ski today. But the season is maybe growing slowly.
All right. And our third partner, Kitzbühel winner, Darren Rolfs. Good to have you here. D, did you get to ski today?
Hey boys, nope, did not ski, but skiing tomorrow. Going for a little early skin tour, I think, with the dog. But we're just getting it. I'm in Truckee, about half an hour from Marco, so we're getting a white coat out here. It's kind of nice to see it.
All right. Well, I'll go do a snow dance at the end of this podcast. Today, we're going to talk about probably the most fun downhill on the circuit, but also one that does have some sharp teeth and has ended some careers. We are talking about Val Gardena. And as our special guest, we have former champion on the Val Gardena course from Canada. He had a 14-year career from his first World Cup in 2005 in Chamonix, where he placed 14th, to his last one in Ori in 2018. He's a four-time Olympian. He joined fellow Canadian Cowboy Eric Gay on the World Championship Super G podium with a bronze in 2017, and also won 3 World Cup downhills, including Val Gardena in 2009. Please welcome Manny Osborne-Paradis. Manny, where are you? And do you get to ski?
Yeah, I am in Invermere, British Columbia. Our mountain here is Panorama. I did not ski today, but I do have 18 days on snow already this year, so we're kicking butt on the days on snow.
Before we get to Val Gardena, Manny, looking back at all your successes, is there one race that you're most proud of, and why, that maybe is not, on your resume?
No, the one that I'm most proud of is actually my Val Gardena win. So if you want me to kick that off, I just talk about that one. Okay,
talk about it.
There you go. The reason why I'm so proud of my Val Gardena win is it came after I had won in Lake Louise. I won the Super G earlier that year, and I was skiing well. I went to Beaver Creek. I didn't have a great result after Lake Louise. I actually didn't do that well in the downhill at Lake Louise. And then, we shipped over to Europe, and I just needed to get a better feel for the snow. And I didn't have a great glide touch for whatever reason. I just kind of hadn't found it that year. And in the first training run, it was like the 5th gate, and I was, it's on the flats. You go 3 big turns at the top, and then you're on the flats. And it was the first time, all summer you're kind of gliding, but you're on glaciers, and you're not really on a track where you can really find the bottom of the snow. And I went off the little hop halfway down the flats, and I just like landed, and I was like, ooh, my ski, like I just kind of shuffled sideways as I landed, and I was like, oh, I got the bottom of the ski here. This is great, right? So the first training run, I was pretty good. I think I was in the teens somewhere. And second training run, I was down to 8th or so, and I had not put together a great run at all. But the times were pretty. We're in there. We're in the mix. And why I'm so proud of it, I think, is just the night before I did an interview. We did a media scrum for whatever reason I was there, because I had won Lake Louise or something, because normally nobody wants to talk to you if you haven't done that well earlier in the year. And we did a media scrum, and it was the last year that Walkoffer was racing, and he had won that a bunch of times, and he was like constantly top 5. And they were, they talked about, if I thought I could win, and what that would mean to me, etc. And I just said, this is the year that would really mean something to me. If I won it this year, like winning it next year is fine, the life goes on, but he's retiring at the end of this year, and this is the race, and this is the year that I want to win this race, because I think I truly have won the race if I can beat Walkoffer. And And I left thinking, normally I think in the past I've said that a couple of times, and then I'm like, oh man, I should just keep my mouth shut. But I left, and I was uber confident. That was the one time that I went to bed that night, and I was like, I don't really know how I'll make a mistake, and I can totally win this thing. And I just didn't feel like I'd put my foot in my mouth or anything. And yeah, sure enough, just before the jumps, the last jump before the camel bumps, I did make quite a big mistake. But I don't know. I was so confident that day, and I kind of was like, well, I guess, there's no more mistakes. I can't have any more mistakes. That was the one I got away with. And sure enough, yeah, I ended up winning that race. And Walkoffer was third. I think Bodie was second, or was flipped, one of those two. I shared the podium with those two guys. And yeah, I don't know, just the whole day that I was super proud about it. And that's what I wanted so badly, was when there's a guy that just dominates a certain course, and to be there and to be able to beat him, and to have looked up to him for so many years, and to really have studied a guy, and then to kind of have had mastered the master plan a little bit better than he did. So that's actually probably my most proud moment on skis.
If you've ever dreamed of going to Wengen or Kitzbühel to watch the classic World Cup downhills, the ADL Ski Club is for you. Their small group trips are geared for passionate skiers and big race fans. They take you to the heart of ski racing's biggest races at the Laberhorn, Hahnenkamm, and Schladming Night Slalom. This year's trip to Wengen still has space available. If you and some friends want to experience one of the greatest classic downhills and do some big Swiss free skiing, just mention American Downhillers and save $800 now. Our own AJ Kidd has been on both the Wengen and Kitzbühel trips. The ADL has a ton of special access passes to the races, parties, and athletes, which make the Ski World Cup unique among all professional sports. Now is the perfect time to get your name on the list for this year's Wengen Lauberhorn trip or next year's Kitz trip. Visit ADL Ski Club, that's adlskiclub.com, and reach out to them to secure your spot.
Hey, Manny,
Nice.
where do you think you won that race?
The Chazlat, I always tried to win in the Chazlat, and then I don't know, maybe it was like 2 or 3 years in, I started thinking, if I look at who does well here, there's actually only about 3/10 that you can really crush it in there. And then if you actually crush it, it's like you don't have legs or something for the last 2 turns of the course, the right footer and the compression, and the left footer, which the left footer is the last turn that you can create speed and get on the right line, where maybe you can mitigate a couple edges going over the jump into the last straight section. And so I kind of had studied there, and I thought, okay, I'm not going to try and win the Chazlat at all. But I had a plan where I was going to exit Chazlat a little higher, and then really be able to utilize the terrain and have the leg strength in there. And I really crushed those turns. The year before, I think I was third, and I lost the race on those turns. And I had thought, okay, I got to give a little bit to get some. But the turn that I won the race on was the turn the reason why I always did well in Val Gardena, and it's coming out of the compression at the top of the course, the first big left footer. I just stayed on my left ski. I landed on my left ski. I stayed there. I stayed patient, and I took the max amount of depth that you could get on that turn to create as much speed for the flats. And I totally nailed it. I went like another meter outside of the next line. And I just, like, when you stand on a ski, especially like downhill, when you stand on it well, and your jaw like literally kind of drops down to your knees a little bit, and you're like, "Ugh," and you got to like hold that. And normally you don't want to do that on the flats, but I feel like that's the one turn you can get away with it. And I went so deep, and like my eyes, like, your eyes shut and your jaw drops, and I touched the gate, and I felt like I just nicked the gate, and I was like, whoa. I got back to that, like I had no idea where I was. And then I just that little jump going on the flats, like I went like another 10 meters farther than I had any of the other days. And I was like, oh, I'm cooking. Here we go.
I like that analogy, man. And just feeling those G's and just resisting against those. And
Yeah, it's the
Like we
it's
were
the
talking
best.
about that
Jaw-dropping turn.
turn.
Jaw dropping. Yeah, you're like, oh, you got like somebody asked me the other day, said, do you ever like when you're skiing, do you make noise and stuff like that? And I was like, I only made noise and grunts and stuff when I was tired and I just wanted my coaches to think I was trying. but the other times are like I probably had 10 turns in my career where I literally like the skeleton was stacked. There was no going anywhere, and you were just creating like as maxed out speed as like your equipment could create, and probably 10 times in my whole career. But every time, you know, the next split is yours by a couple tenths. You know, like there's just nobody can get you. That's like the one thing. And you know me, I was only good on the flat, so generally I tried to have that dealt with at the bottom of some pitch.
I know what you mean about Shazlot. It's like that's a survival section for me, you know. And there's leg burn at Bormio, and there's a different kind of leg burn at Vengen, and there's a different kind of leg burn coming out of the Shazlot, depending on how much energy you have to expend to like stay on the ground and not like lawn dart into the front of one of those rollers. And you know, I just remember coming out of there always with my right leg into that compression, just going, oh, I'm so glad this is the last time I got to use my right leg. And you go to the left leg and you got like a 15-second left leg turn that's accelerating from 60 to 85 miles an hour. I mean, there's nothing like it.
It's the best downhill course. Like
Yeah,
I
it's
just,
so much
I
fun.
just, you know, and I say it's the best pretty loose because they're all awesome, right? Let's call a spade there. But like the best part about Val Gardena is that win or lose, everybody's got a smile on their face at the bottom, you
Yeah.
know? And I think that's where it's just so fun to be in the air that many times.
I mean,
Yeah.
this is definitely like a left footer's course too. I mean, you're kind of start, you're kind of like just pumping off that left leg for like skating. What you explained at the top, again, going to that compression, left foot. Yeah, there's a few right footers, but Mauer and then the Chazlot and then the exit Chazlot on the Turbo Road down the bottom. But it's like I never really spanked that course, but like you said, I had a good smile on my face every time I came down that made it to the finish line.
And do you think that like it's interesting you say like the left footers, right footers, because that's generally like I did well on courses that geared towards left footer, you know, like Bang In, and I know those are flatter courses as well. But I mean, even like Louise, I always, I mean, really, if you go through all the major turns in the World Cup, it's probably 80% of the nasty turns, the go-to turns are left footers. But I don't know, is that like are you?
I've literally like never thought about that before.
That'd be
Yeah.
interesting to yeah.
You guys
to,
are
like
blowing my
tally
mind
that
right
up.
now.
I always thought that. I was like, man, there's so many left footers, and thank God I'm left-handed, you know. I just thought this is a little bit more to my advantage.
But Manny, the turn you're talking about coming onto the flats at Val Gardena, that's a right footer after the compression. The one where you really got to line it up, that's the big right footer, right?
It's true. I
Like a
mean, but
loop.
like Marco, come on, you got to be good at both of the turns. Like, there's only two things you got to be good at in ski racing. You know, you got to be good at the left one and the right one.
True.
But I just interesting. I just asked Daron, like, what do you think? Like, did you ever assess that? Maybe as much as I did, or put any weight on that?
On the left and right.
Mm-hmm.
No, it'd be interesting to throw together the stats on the lefts and rights, all the World Cup races. But it does seem like there's a lot of lefts, but there are also some important rights to nail.
So, there's some big important rights. I mean, look at the bottom of Kitzbühel. You know, like there's a bunch that are just like the rights. I almost find there's more integral lefts that you got to like nail, but the rights, there's like a minimal amount of rights, but those are ones that like usually have nasty spill zones, are like ones that you really have to, like the one in Val Gardena. If you don't do that right footer well, I mean, kiss the whole weekend goodbye.
Manny, go back to like you mentioned before, or you felt the bottom of the ski. I have not heard that term before. I'm just kind of interested in hearing like your kind of thoughts on what the bottom of the ski is.
Well, let me tell you something, Daron.
Still
I
trying to learn,
learned
buddy.
about the bottom of the ski from somebody you would never ever think that I learned the bottom of the ski from. Yeah, I learned that from you, and you told me this one time, and then you were like, I don't know, I mean, I know you were the steep master. You struggled on the flats, and then you're telling me this, and I was like, oh, I'm going to try that one time. So, my first year and my first World Cup, because, you know, you might not even have known that I was this little kid, but like, you know, with Dale Stevens as a coach and everything on BC ski team, I trained with the U.S. World Cup team for quite some time in Chile. I went down for like a 2-week camp and ended up in Portillo for like 7 weeks, and I just kept jumping with teams. And Daron, you were like, you know, the rock star to me, like always like the kindest person and like just the man. And so when I made the World Cup squad, or my first World Cup, I hadn't made the team. I just got it my chance. You know, I always took my time and inspection, which you did as well. So I think we just ended up down there at the bottom section in Chamonix, you know, and you probably just give me unsolicited advice because, you know, who cares? I'm some guy in the back of the pack. And it was, there was a right footer that kind of went, you did a compression, and then you went up the hill a little bit. And I was really struggling how to find the line there. And you were like, oh, what I'm trying is I'm trying to go through the compression and then point my skis up the hill a little farther, and then kind of angle my skis sideways a bit, like, and then ski down to the gate. And I don't know if that had just been something you were working on or whatever. But I tried it there, and I was like, oh, well, if I ski sideways, I'm going to ski way faster. Like, sideways is the fastest way to ski. And I crushed that section. I actually won that section in the race by 0.5 to the second guy.
Yeah.
It was Herman Meyer in my
Skiing
first
sideways.
race. I won that by half a second, that split.
Going sideways?
Going sideways, and it's not
Jeez.
a long split. It's about 12 seconds, and I won the 12-second split by half a second to Herman Meyer, who I was like, oh, this is ridiculous. Daron's got all the secrets, you know. Let's go back to Val Gardena for a sec. So, in Val Gardena, so we go across, we go through the compression, right foot across, and we hit the jump. So the next thing we do, we go uphill, and there's a little ridge there that we're going to get some
looping,
air on.
right? The
What's
looping
that?
jump. The looping jump.
The looping jump. So it's a little nasty jump because it's sideways, and you got to stay in your tuck. It's so hard, but then on race day, you end up flying fairly far usually on that jump, and it's hard to stay in your tuck. And so I always kind of looked at that jump like, okay, like, where do I need to land? Because the next gate is 600 feet to like the next gate, right? So I would literally for like 300 feet, and then I was probably looking like 10 feet up, and I'd point my skis there, knowing that I had to travel sideways down to the gate, and I would just do that. So I would go that jump because it's on a camber. I would actually just fly up the hill a little farther, so then I could stay in my tuck through the air there, instead of trying to go straight and get twisted, which everybody does. I would actually just go up higher, and then I wouldn't fly as far because I was flying up the hill a little bit, and then I would trend down across. And so that was like, that's just got a bit of a side hill. Same thing on the next one. I would take that a little deeper again, and then the ski would be loaded, and it exits on a little ridge that you can that if you come in with a loaded ski, I always felt like I could kind of hop up that. I could gain some speed there as well. And then same tactic, you can start trending down halfway across that hill, and then you can actually mitigate and not do one edge there. You can get away with not making an edge, and again, that is quite a bit faster. So that's kind of what I started doing, and I just started skiing sideways all the
Right,
time.
so breaking it down the way I'm looking at it, where you're explaining skiing sideways is trending or letting it drift. You're using the gravity pull, right? You're letting the mountain pull you on. So you're using the terrain, utilizing the terrain as much as possible.
Yeah,
Not
and
throwing the skis sideways, but you're just kind of like drifting with it And finding the bottom of the ski would just be keeping it as flat as possible. You're eliminating any like edge pressure, correct?
Correct. Yeah. And,
Yeah.
I should probably change my terminology because I just say ski sideways because, I was just trying to be, because then you tell people that and they don't know what you're talking about. And then,
AJ's been telling all the FIS kids to ski sideways. It's fast.
I'm
you're
gonna
like,
change my terminology. I'm gonna call it the Canadian drift now.
yeah,
there you
whatever,
go.
man.
Yeah, the Canadian drift, the Manny drift. How about that?
So I spent a lot of time on those flats, more than most, I think. And that when I would do that well, that race, like I feel like if you can do that section well, and which lots of guys just kind of cruise on through, that's like 1/3 of the race up there. And for a race like that, being so meticulous on the top, it just made it so I just kind of was always consistently top 15, because I always had that section dialed. And really from the first time I ever went there, that's kind of what I started doing, because it was from my first World Cup, really. But
And this sounds like a dinner conversation with Bodie.
sorry, yeah,
I was
just
like, we know the gate you're talking about, but every
details,
listener is
yeah.
totally lost right now.
all right, sorry, my man. Anyway, so
Hey,
and then I got on a steep pitch, and I'm just like lost. I'm like, man, my boots are too loose, and I don't know what I'm doing out here.
I didn't know there was so much math and so much geometry involved with ski racing. So stay in school, American Downhill. We've talked about the upper flats, the looping, how important it is, and the cheslot and that lower part. When we haven't even talked about the camel bumps, which define this course. Anybody here crash on those camels ever?
Yeah, I did.
Oh, you did?
Manny.
Let's hear about that.
Well, actually, so the Camels, man, there's been so many adventures off those bad boys.
Were you going sideways when you went off the camels?
No, I landed it. I landed and then I crashed.
Okay, that's good.
Maybe you remember this, Robs, but I hated jumps my first couple of years. I mean, I made the team in slalom. I wasn't really a downhiller, and then next thing I know, it was like I did 7 weeks in Portillo, and then I was on the downhill tour, and I was like, man, like I'm a downhiller. Like you remember Rosignol at that time only had the metal plate for the World Cup guys, and the skis were like 10 pounds more, and I got to go to World Cup, and then I got those skis, and literally like my first jump off Chamonix, they said it was like 20 meters. It was huge, and I'd never gone on a jump that big, and my skis just like my legs just because I had never been in the air that long, and I also had 20 pounds more under my feet. I had no idea what I was doing, and so I was a little scared, and so I think I was really pumped that it was small that year, and then the next year was that year that it went really big, and I that's where I got measured. They measured me at 89 meters off that thing, and then that was when that was huge. That was the biggest jump I've ever done in my career, and that was the one. They put a lip on it, and then in the first training run, it was snowy and it was slow, and like it always gets faster, and we were making it. And it was pretty big, and it wasn't really a big deal. And then the second training run, it had like rained a bit at night, and it got cold, and it was fast. It was super fast, and I was running, I think 3, and Johnny Kuchera and Walkoffer, I believe, were the 2 guys in front of me, and they went, I went, and I went off that thing, and I landed like onto the lip, right? Like when you're gonna, so like I boosted it, like I landed into the compression and then boosted off it, and the lip was huge. And I got to the landing point, and I was still like 20 feet in the air. And I was like, oh, this is so not good. Like, this is like the worst case scenario, like, I don't know if you guys ever had these. I always had these dreams. I kind of had 2 nightmare dreams all the time throughout my career. One was that I would get to the start and I wouldn't have my ski boots. That was always like and then I'd run around and never find them, and I'd miss my start. And the other one is I would take off jumps and I'd never land. I just end up in the, like up there, like in the valley. like going down to Bolzano and then landing there and having a ridiculous crash into a building, you know. And these were like my two nightmares. And so literally I was living my nightmare in this jump. I was up so high, and you know, on the Camels, there's the landing, the normal landing, and then there's like another little ridge down below, like a long ways down below. I landed on that ridge, and I was super lucky because it gets a little steep right there. And if I hadn't, that would have been 2 broken legs for sure. Like, it was so big. And then they delayed it after that, and I got down to the bottom, and Walkover and Johnny, they were both green. Like, we're all like, what happened? Like, that was the most insane thing ever. And they cut it like by like 3 feet, the lip. Like, they cut it so much, and it was still one of the biggest years. Yeah, right after that we went, they shaved it down a lot, and it was better because then it was low, and I mean, you can go super far if it was low, right? It was just this lip. And then the following year I crashed on it. Yeah, I caught an edge in the compression. And it was driver error, as most crashes are, even if you like to think that they aren't. I think I went, I got a little sloppy, and you know, you kind of have to redirect the skis before you go over the first camel. And I got a little sloppy, and I thought I really could cut things off, and I could, you know, land in my tuck and do a bunch of extra stuff that you probably shouldn't have time to do in the compression. And I just, you know, I knocked my skis, and I ended up like being able to catch myself out, and I landed on one leg, and then kind of splatted on my back. And it wasn't as scary as I thought, just because I'd gone so big on the year before. But yeah, I mean, it was always in the back of your mind, you know. That's always the thing, because that's a big jump. Like, on the best of days, that's a big jump. And
yeah, it's a must make. You must make the landing. You don't want to case that, but then you don't want to go way big like that. 1, potential injury, crash, and 2, you just out jump it. You're losing speed.
Hey, Doug Lewis here, and I want to talk about the American Downhiller Speed Camp. American Downhiller is the leader in teaching young ski racers how to go fast and have fun. 2023 will mark the 6th annual American Downhiller Speed Skills Camp in Mammoth Mountain. Our speed camp is coached exclusively by current and former World Cup racers and coaches who are passionate about helping the next generation of athletes achieve their dreams. We specifically focus on aerodynamics, jumping technique, speed tactics, and the mental training required to safely navigate Super G and downhill race courses. If you are a ski racer who wants to go fast, check out our website, AmericanDownhiller.com, for all specific camp dates.
Why were the Canadians so notoriously dominant and successful in Val Gardena? What are your thoughts about that? I mean, I don't know what the string is, the stats, but it seems like Canadians have always been really successful there.
I looked it up. Boyd had a couple wins.
Yeah.
And then on the podium, Reed, Brooker, Podovinsky, Kuchera, Manny, obviously, Podborski, Stemmel, Hudetz, Gay, all of them on the
Crazy,
podium.
yeah. So I was talking to Berkey in Beaver Creek about Val Gardena, and he said that he would have his guys, I'm sure you're part of this, go out and go for warm up, go to the test track or go someplace where you're just doing gliding. You're not dealing with the GS or Super G warm up course. But he was a big proponent of just trying to get a good feel, get the bottom of that ski feel for warming up before the race.
I mean, we would definitely do that. Actually, that's true. I was forgetting something. We literally every day of those races, every day, every year that I had him, we would go with the test track guys on the other side of the valley in the morning, and we would test track always. And I felt like he actually thought that, you know, we'd been in North American snow, and I know that Beaver Creek and Lake Louise snow is quite different, but then it's another snowpack altogether once we hit Europe. And yeah, just getting the mileage. I mean, but we did that consistently with him. I kind of forgotten about that. You know, you try to forget about all these things sometimes, but yeah, we did that a lot. And then we would usually go over, and there was a period when we were younger that we would only warm up on slalom skis. I did like a whole downhill season only on slalom skis. and then
Wait, what kind of skis?
on slalom skis.
What are those?
Yeah. You
Is it a
know,
different
I
brand?
can tell you, AJ, the
Never
worst
heard of
thing
those.
to warm up on before Wengen is slalom. Like, you're trying to mitigate how many turns you do, right? Like, it's all
Save the
conservation.
legs.
Yeah, not when you're on slalom skis, man. But yeah, Berkey would have us do the glide track. We'd go up and do our warm up on the other side. But to be honest, I think like if I had to narrow it down to one thing, I just think we had confidence there, and it just trickled through each generation on the teams. I just knew when we went there that we just did well. And now I don't want to say like, I think like, we're talking about the Canadian team here. I like, if there's ever a race that it's a North American race, I mean, that's the one, right? Like the Americans and the Canadians are in the same hotel, and we've all had like huge success there. And I think it's just the aura of like our nations together in that hotel. We've always gotten along. We've always been good friends. And when you have a group of people that are just humming in a room, like we're not talking like, okay, there's been tons of podiums, but there's been like a ton of careers made there and personal bests, and lots of guys that we're never gonna we know them because of teammates, but nobody's gonna know their names. Like, they got to live their dreams and get their best results there, and like do a race that maybe they were never going to be technically good enough to bomb down kits and do well, but like they could go there and like fulfill their childhood dreams, and like to be in a hotel, especially I feel like for me, and again, I get sentimental with D here, but we were a young team, right? Like when we started on the World Cup, and it was like Johnny, Frankie, Eric, myself. I think there was just four of us at the beginning. Eric was the oldest at 22, and then we were all 19 and 20. And so we didn't have anybody older to really lead the way. And, I think like having some veterans there, having Bodie, having Daron, helped us a lot, especially in our transition through that, like a lull in our ski team. And man, I think like it was always fun. I mean, we celebrated when, all of Nyman's victories, Marco, you were on the podium there.
I was fourth
Quick
there twice.
fill, right? Yeah.
It was always a good one, but never a podium.
What a time. What a time. And I think it just but it's totally the confidence. Like we kind of just, I feel like we always just went over there and we kind of knew that there was always success, and I just never second guessed it. That was just kind of the place that we were going to have that.
Yeah, I think it's a good point to make, just like how strong that like that culture, that vibe and everything puts you in a good place.
The whole culture there. I mean, even like the Babs and the guys that run the hotel, they come there and they expect that we're going to be on the podium, and I think like when you have a group, like how many hotels you go to and they're like a bunch of people that are just not even going to watch the race, and then you go into this and they're like, what can we do to help you succeed, and it's just such a great environment to be in. Video was collaborative. I felt like there were times when young racers came up to me on our team, on the US team, and you totally had time for them. One year I was struggling a bunch in a section, and Nyman came over and like chucked on his video and was like, hey, let's figure this out together. Like, I think we like, we really bonded. And for a group that doesn't, work together all the time, I think, nobody ever had any egos, nobody had any problems with anybody. And it was just it's a great atmosphere, and it was a really good start to our time on the road. I mean, we really, that was going to be the time that we were going to be away from our families, and we kind of, exited with a lot of camaraderie within our groups. So yeah, I think it all stems from, everybody gets results in ski racing because of teamwork. It's an individual sport, but the teamwork, and the more people you surround yourself with that you want to help, they want to help you, put your egos aside. You're just going to get better at skiing. Like, it's just period. End of story, you know.
Marco, you were part of some American groups where they had 4 in the top 10 or 5 in the top 15 through that period at Val Gardena. Can you speak to teamwork or confidence, or why?
Well, I mean, Manny nailed it pretty well with the whole camaraderie there. And I think that one time when we had 5 Americans in the top 10, then there was like 3 Canadians as well. You know, we stacked, like, almost swept the top 10 with North Americans. It was unbelievable. I'm just thinking about this year, the downhill season is actually going to start with Val Gardena, you know, with all these cancellations, and it could be like an amazing start for the North Americans to go in there with confidence, have some great results, and just build on that as they go into Bormio and Bengen and Kits, and it, you know, could be set the base for a really good year for all these guys.
Wend produces a sophisticated line of ski and snowboard waxes for use by skiers, riders, racers, and shops. The current Wend snow wax formulations have come from over 50 years of progressive blend reformulation and on-slope and in-lab testing. This has been in conjunction with the feedback of some of the world's top ski and snowboard athletes. Athletes who know real speed, like Kitzbühel champ Daron Rolfs and 2019 Birds of Prey GS champion Tommy Ford. Wend no longer sells any products containing fluorocarbon compounds and instead utilizes natural, plant-derived and/or biodegradable additives that substantially increase the overall eco-friendliness of the Wend Snow Wax product line. Give Wend a follow on Instagram at Wend Waxworks and purchase your Wend products at wendperformance.com. And don't forget to use the code ADH20 for 20% off your purchase.
Manny, I don't know if you know the history, but you know, you got Cameron Alexander, James Crawford, Seeger, Reed. It seems like this has been a slow build on the new Canadian team. Was that something that was planned? Or is it just kismet that these athletes are coming all together and finding their speed right now?
You know, it's cool you bring that up. You know, this is I think, you know, all these guys, you know, Crawford's from Ontario, but then he moved to Whistler when he was pretty young. You know, these guys are all BC athletes. And this is kudos, I think, to Bruce Goldsmith for his years. And Bruce was the president of BC Alpine when I was on that team. But BC's brought up so many athletes, and he was just such a great fundraiser. That's what he did, just better than anybody. And he raised a lot of money. He created great partnerships with sponsors, great relationships with them, where when he left, and Anders took over, who was one of the coaches for the Norwegian teams prior to that transition. You know, he was able to maintain those relationships and keep a really well-run team. And then that team, you know, they had Nick Cooper at one point. They've got Johnny Crichton. They've got Morgan Pretty now, who was one of our guys who also did really well in Val Gardena. I think he had a couple top 10s in Val Gardena in the Super Gs. So they just stacked. You know, they were able to build a quality budget, and then they complemented that with good coaching staff over the years. And these guys are all just pipelined from that one team. So I think, you know, was it planned? No, but like I think we were all very lucky that there was guys like Broderick, especially Broderick, because he was able to experience, even Jack actually for last year, they were able to experience the work ethic and you know, the key points of mastery, I think, that our team had kind of figured out, that we had to reinvent because of a you know, a little bit of a lapse in our world, where I think those guys were able to pass on what they wanted to use and what they wanted to recycle and what they wanted to make their own. And then these guys just kind of surged up from underneath. And I think they're you know, they're a really great group of guys that are forging their own path. Like, they're definitely not doing it the way we did it. They're doing it their way. It's their group. And it's super admirable. I really think that these guys have worked up from this pipeline together, and to maintain this and to keep fighting, and to not not accept the status quo. I think, that's one of the biggest things, right? Like that you've got to constantly get better. And it just seems like these guys are really doing a great job, and they complement each other so well. Jack was such a technician, and then these other guys, gliders and risk takers, and they've all seemed to like jive with what they have in common and what they bring to the table, and really trying to culminate that all together. So it's cool to see, but it's definitely, I give a lot of credit to Bruce Goldsmith, I think, for creating a quality program that can withstand the test of time.
One of the neat things that Manny, that you said about the guys that are there now is there's each guy kind of has his own sort of premier characteristic that he's really good at, whether it's technical or gliding or whatever. And if a group can work together collaboratively like that, and the guy that's the best at gliding can help the other guys get a little bit better, and the guy that's the best at turns can help all the guys get a little bit better, and everybody gets better by helping each other. And that to me is the essence of a really great, strong team and a strong culture. They clearly have it. They've been coming on for a few years. It's been evident that the Canadians have been doing something right for a number of years, and they're feeling the fruits of that right now. They're the class of the field here at the NORAMs. Seeger's been running, forerunning, getting some reps in. The Alexanders have been really fast. Kyle won today. And it's really kind of neat to see that from the outside. And from our side, I think, we've got to help them do that. We've got to, just support by bringing up more fast athletes. And I think just really hope that the culture building that's going on within the U.S. ski team is going to work.
I look at like Johnny Kuchera for an example. I mean, this guy was unheard of his whole career. I mean, he kind of just slumped into the Alberta team, slumped his way onto the national team, like really wasn't exceptional at anything. And then, just was good enough to make each team. And then one summer, for whatever reason, just crushed it. And then went to Lake Louise for the NORAMs. And I remember he won both Super Gs and he was second in both downhills, got his spot, made the World Cup, was top 30 by the end of the year, and never looked back. Pipelines matter huge. I think pipelines matter. They're absolutely the core of how to get people to the World Cup. And if it was an easy answer, we could all sit here and talk about how easy that is and who should do what and what should be different. But it's at the end of the day, it's these athletes, they're all talented and they're all amazing skiers. It's just like who can get it to all click, right? Like who can, and what does that mean? That means something different for everybody, right?
Yeah, and like you said, none of it ever happens overnight. Nobody just suddenly appears to be fast. It appears that way, but it doesn't happen that way. It takes a lot of repetition, a lot of mileage, and a lot of years. And finally, when it begins to click, like you talked about with Kuchera, then that's when it appears like it's just happened overnight. But really, if you got to look back at all the mileage that was put in, all the building blocks that were put into that foundation for such a long period of time, and then you can move forward with the strong foundation that you can then, you can attack and you can have a successful period out of.
Yeah, you hit one good race too, and then bam, you're on the scene, because at that point you belong. And I think that's the biggest thing is you don't really know you can like compete with these top dogs. You've been watching for a while until you're in the mix with them. And then you do that, it's like, hey, I'm in there. So maybe the easy answer is we got to start put together like a thrills tape of all the kick-ass Canadians and Americans that have done well all these races. And those guys just kind of like watch that stuff go down and like, hey, we own this place. Let's do it. And I really feel like the power of the mind, you can will yourself to speed and feel good in that place and have that culture of just generations of your own teammates that paved the way in the past. Like, it's like, hey, why can't I do it? Why can't we do it? And then let's do it, and get it done. But
Daron, I really like the fact that it always, you grind, and then there's that one breakthrough. For me, it was in Whistler in 1984, my first top 10. All the energy was about Bill Johnson and Zurbriggen and all that. And boy, you know, I was the underdog, had no expectations, and finally broke through. For each of you, what was that one race where finally it clicked?
You want to go chronologically?
Chronically, AJ.
The timeline.
Oldest to youngest. I have to say I had two races. One, you know, I think I was starting outside the 30, and I was banging away, and you know, Cortina's normally a ladies race, but because of cancellations and weather, they sent us over there, and had a couple of okay training runs. The first race, I had some good training runs in the top 10, but the first race I was like 17th. I was really pissed off about that. And in the next race, I was just like, you know, fuck it, I'm just going to go. And I ended up 4th. And it was what put me into the first seed world ranking for the first time ever. And I think later that year, I ended up 4th or 5th in Ore in the finals. And sort of with those two races, I kind of felt like, okay, I'm here, I'm established in the top 15, and I'm not leaving. You know, that gave me the confidence to feel like I could be there.
D-Money.
I like that, AJ. I'm here and I'm not leaving. You know, that attitude. I had let's see, 21st in Whistler and Super G. So I kind of like was in the points, and then went back to some NORAMs, ended up winning 2 NORAM races, and was shipped to Kvitfield overnight, you know, to get there for Super G, and starting, I think it was 34th. And Kyle Rasmussen pegged it a good run, and all this chatter and hype's going off on the radio. And I was actually sick. I was buckling my boots and my head would plug up, and I wasn't feeling good from the travel over. I think it was just like a matter of no expectations, just going to go out and ski as hard as I can for a minute and a half and see what happens. And I ended up finishing right behind Ras in 4th. And that was another big, you know, just move for me, just showing that like, hey, I can compete with these guys now. And that was a big step for me.
I think for me, I actually got it in training. Or my first year on the World Cup, we were training when we used to train at Beaver Creek instead of Copper. And early season, there was like no snow, so everyone was training one course on the front of Beaver Creek, and the Austrians were training with us, Norwegians, our whole team. And I had like some fast Solomons that year, and I was smoking everyone in training. And like when we had Hans Knaus on the podcast last year, he remembers that there was this young American kid who was like beating Herman, beating Eberharder. And all of a sudden I was like, if I just ski, and you know, these guys are like they're superheroes in my mind, but you can actually hang with them. And it didn't totally translate to the race season, but I had like some good results, you know, a couple of top 15s right off in Lake Louise, Beaver Creek, my first year. And I kind of broke down that door of being confident and being able to like tell myself that I was there and I could do well. So I didn't have to wait too long to really be like too scared of those guys. I could charge right off the bat.
I've got my downhill and my Super G. With downhill, I was kind of fortunate because my first year World Cup, I think it was the only year we did this, but we flipped the training run results to the start that year, and randomly, I mean not randomly, but I was just good enough when I got into World Cup that I could get like 29th, 30th if I just crushed the run. And so Chamonix, my first World Cup, I ended up, I think I was 21st or something in the training run, which then started me, you know, 9th in the race of my first World Cup. And then I ended up finishing 14th, but I almost fell, and I had to come back to make it over the road. And at that point I was in second. At the road I was in second, and I ended up 14th. And so I was very close to getting a podium in my first race. I just literally, I screwed up like the easiest gate. But the biggest wow thing I think there, and which was super cool, was that in Chamonix that you go up the chair, and the old chair was kind of going over the run. And I was looking on the first training run because I was starting in the lead. So I was going up when they were going down. I was like, well, these guys aren't that good. That's all they're doing. You know, you see them on TV and they look so good, and it's the right camera angle and all that stuff. And I'm like, these guys just look like NORAM guys that are just adults, like, and I just, from that point, I was like, oh, I can compete with these guys. These are the same guys as me. And then AJ, I think, like, like for Super G, it was in 2009 in Lake Louise. I was going to start, I was 31st on the start list, and I was going to start like so far back. My Super G points were terrible because I had just not been getting in Super G. It had been 3 years on the World Cup, and I had the worst fist points. Like, it was just, I had an okay race here, 20th and 25th, and but like nothing to get me in the top 30, and bad enough that I was not getting fist points. And so I was going to start like third, fourth last in the race, like really bad. And I think it was Sanders. He crashed in the downhill, and he was kind of wavering. Oh, can I race the Super G? Can I? And can I not? And I actually, like, I went to his room and I was like, dude, like, are you racing or are you not? Like, don't be lazy about this. Like, cause if you don't race, I get to be in the top 30. Right. And if you do, but like, if you're fine, but like, I saw him hobbling through the hotel. Like, he was nearly on crutches. And then Berkey, was it Berkey? No, it was Lionel talked to their coaches, and just like they talked it over, and they ended up pulling him from the start, and that put me in the top 30. And then I drew three or seven, might've been seven, anyways, in the top 7. And then I won the race. So I had been battling from the back, just trying my best in Super G for so long, and grinding, from the last place to like 20th, and all along that was good enough to win a damn race.
Doug Lewis here. If you are a U12, U14, or U16, Elite Team fitness camps are for you. This is not your average fitness camp, as we teach the vital skills of sports psychology and sports nutrition, along with tough, challenging workouts. You will leave camp with more power, strength, and agility, with a deeper understanding about nutrition, and with the mental skills of confidence, focus, and pushing limits, which will take you to the next level. Over our 30 years, we have coached Olympic champions, World Cup stars, NCAA champions, including U.S. ski teamers Michaela Schifrin, Lauren Masuga, Alice Merriweather, Jimmy Krupka, Grace Henderson, and Sammy Worthington. And finally, although we push our limits to the edge, we have a ton of fun. We are holding 2 week-long sessions this July at the Killington Mountain School. Find all the info at eliteteam.com. All right, I'm ready for my picks if you guys want to go.
Marco,
I'll go.
you're on the spot.
Bryce Bennett, number 1. Alexander Kilday, number 2. Niels Hinterman, number 3.
All right, those are Marco's picks. Darren, you want to go next?
All right, I'm going Marco, the other Marco Odermatt. Number 1, Kilday 2, and I'm feeling some North American, not just pride, but Cam Alexander. I'm gonna go with him. I think he's got a good build for that, and fast kid. So the Canadian on the podium.
All right. I'm gonna go Canadian on the podium, James Crawford coming through. I'm gonna go Odermatt in second. He's still not gonna win his first downhill World Cup. And then I'm going the big man Kriekmeyer, because he can really absorb all the jumps. So it's between us through. There's a $500 on the line. So there you go.
All right.
What?
American Downhill is putting $500 up for the prize purse. I like it.
500 Grindel Shanks, whatever those are. So for the US and Canadians, it starts this week at Val Gardena. They're under the radar. They're at a place they love. And it is the fresh start. It will be the first speed races of the year, hopefully. So let's hope the Canadians and the US find their groove. So thanks everybody for listening and watching to our American Downhiller podcast. Special thanks to Manny Osborne-Paradis, who was part of the Canadian Cowboys in their heyday and was always a fun character on World Cup. Please spread the word about our podcast, share with your friends, coaches, teammates, and clubs. You can find us either on Spotify or Apple or on our YouTube channel. And thanks to our American Downhiller sponsors, ADL Ski Club, Wend Wax, Elite Team Fitness Programs, and American Downhiller Camps. Stay tuned for more American Downhiller podcasts For AJ, Darren, and Marco, thanks for listening.